The air is cold and bitter. I have wandered for days seeking refuge and work. All help has forsaken me. I am half-starved. My strength is failing me, and I can go no further. Memory after memory haunts me. Mrs. Reed, Helen, Mrs. Fairfax, my dear master. I pray. I have nothing else left.
God help me, sustain me, or let me die in peace.
All men must die, but all are not condemned to meet this sort of doom. You shall not perish here of want. Diana, Mary, open the door, quickly.
Oh dear God!
Who is she, St. John?
I do not know. I found her at the door, weak and cold.
Oh, she's white as a ghost. I'll fetch her some water.
The poor thing, she looks starved to death.
I cannot breathe.
St. John, help her.
What has happened to her?
Get the door, Diana.
You must give a water.
Dreams turned to memory. Back to my childhood I was transported. Back to Gateshead, with my Aunt Reed and my cousins.
There you are, rat.
What do you want?
Say, what do you want, Master Reed? I want you to come here.
My cousin John was a schoolboy of 14. I was 10 and small. He was favoured and spoiled by his mother, and though he had little affection for her, he hated me. He bullied me mercilessly, and every nerve I had feared him.
That is for sneaking round behind the curtain, and for that look in your eyes, you rat. You have no business to take our books. You are a dependent, Mamma says. You have no money. Your father left you none. You ought to beg, not live here with gentlemen's children like us. I'll teach you to rummage my bookshelves. They are mine. All the house belongs to me, or will do in a few years. Go stand by the door.
I obeyed him, but when he lifted the book to throw it, I instinctively dodged it, but not soon enough. It hit my head, and I fell, cutting my head on the door. The blood stirred something in me.
Mama!
Get off of him!
Take her to the Red Room.
Put her arms, Miss Abbott. She's like a wild cat.
For shame, Miss Eyre! What shocking conduct!
To strike your benefactor's son.
You're your master!
You don't sit still. You must be tied down.
No, please. I'll stay still.
You ought to be aware, miss, that you are under obligation to Mrs. Reed. If she were to turn you away, you would have to go to the poorhouse. What I tell you is for your good. You should try to be useful and pleasant. If you become passionate and rude, Mrs. will send you away. I'm sure of it.
And God will punish you for it. Say your prayers, Miss Eyre. If you don't repent, something bad might come down the chimney and fetch you away.
The Red Room was where my Uncle Reed had died, and very seldom did we enter it. I had become frightened that he would haunt that room, angered by his wife's cruelty toward me, for she had promised him to bring me up as her own. The notion that his spirit would return to this room in anger overwhelmed me with terror.
Are you hurt? Have you seen something? Let her go. You will stay until I deem it time to fetch you. An hour longer now.
Please, have mercy on Reed.
Silence.
It had been months since the Red Room. Mrs. Reed had summoned me, which she seldom did. She beckoned me approach. A man stood beside her.
This is the little girl I wrote of.
What is your name, little girl?
Jane Eyre, sir.
And are you a good child, Jane Eyre?
Perhaps the less said on the subject the better, Mr. Brocklehurst.
There is no sight so sad as a naughty little girl. Jane Eyre, do you know where the wicked go after death?
They go to hell.
And what is hell?
A pit full of fire.
And should you like to fall into that pit and be burned there forever?
No, sir.
What must you do to avoid it?
I must keep in good health and not die.
I am anxious to be relieved of a responsibility that has become far too irksome. Should you admit her into Lowood School, I wish the teachers to keep a close eye on her and to guard against her worst fault. She has a tendency to deceit. I would caution you not to be fooled by her lies.
Deceit is a sad fault in a child. It is akin to falsehood, and all liars will have their portion in the lake burning with fire and brimstone. She will be watched closely.
I should wish her to be brought up in a manner suiting her prospects, to be made useful, to be kept humble. As for vacations, she will, with your permission, spend them always at Lowood. I will send her as soon as possible.
Of course, madam. Little girl, here is a book called The Child's Guide. Read it with prayer, especially the account of the sudden death of Martha G., a naughty child addicted to deceit.
Go out of the room and return to the nursery.
I am not deceitful. If I were, I should say I loved you. But I do not. I dislike you the worst of anybody in the world.
What more have you to say?
I am glad you are no relation of mine. I will never call you aunt again as long as I live. I will never come to see you when I am grown up. And if anyone asks me how I liked you and how you treated me, I will say the very thought of you makes me sick and that you treated me with miserable cruelty.
How dare you?
How dare I? How dare I? Because it is the truth. You think I have no feelings and that I can live without one bit of love or kindness. You have no pity. People think you are a good woman, but you are bad and hard-hearted. You are deceitful.
I was soon taken to Lowood School. I had hoped for better times, but it was as gloomy and horrid as Gateshead had been. We were hardly fed, and there was immense cruelty. I did, however, find a friend, Helen.
You must wish to leave this awful place.
Oh no. I was sent here to get an education, and I mustn't leave until I have done so.
But that teacher, Miss Scatcherd, is so cruel to you.
Cruel? Not at all. She dislikes my faults.
If she came near me with that rod, I would get it out of her hand and break it under her nose.
Then you would be expelled from the school, and that would grieve your relations. It is better to endure smart which no one feels but yourself. Besides, the Bible commands us to return good for evil.
I certainly could not bear it.
Yet it would be your duty to bear it. It is weak and silly to say that you cannot bear what you must bear. We must be good to those who harm us, Jane.
I cannot. If people were always kind and obedient to those who are cruel and unjust, the wicked people would always have their own way. When we are struck without reason, we should strike back to teach them never to do it again.
You will change your mind when you are older.
But I feel like this, Helen. I must dislike those who dislike me, no matter how I try to please them. I must resist those who punish me unjustly. It is as natural as that I should love those who show me affection.
It is not violence that best overcomes hate, nor vengeance that most certainly heals injury. Read the New Testament and observe what Christ says and how he acts. Make his word your rule and his conduct your example. To love your enemies and bless them that curse you.
Then I should love Mrs. Reed, and I cannot do that.
Mrs. Reed has been unkind to you, no doubt. But you remember all that she has done so deeply. Her injustice has made such a deep impression on your heart. Would you not be happier if you tried to forget her severity and the anger it incited? Life to me is too short to be spent nursing animosity. We all will be burdened by sin in this world. But the time will soon come when we shall put off our corruptible bodies, and all the sin will fall away, and only the spark of the Spirit will remain. Returning to God, I can live in peace and calm because of that.
I thought for my first quarter at Lowood that Mr. Brocklehurst had forgotten me, but I was wrong.
Careless girl! It is Jane Eyre. Come forward.
Don't be afraid, Jane.
Get up on that stool, girl. You all see this girl? My dear children, it is my duty to warn you that this girl is a sinner. This I learned from her benefactress, a pious, charitable lady who adopted her in her orphan state and was repaid by ingratitude so bad that she was obligated to send her here to separate her from her own children. Be on your guard against her. Shun her example. Avoid her company. Exclude her from your converse. Teachers, watch her closely. Punish her body to save her soul. This girl is a liar. Let her stand half an hour longer on that stool, and let no one speak to her during the remainder of the day.
Only Helen Burns smiled at me that day. The half hour ended. I wept bitterly. Helen was not here. Nothing sustained me. But then Helen came in, holding out a piece of bread.
Here now, eat something.
Helen, why do you stay with a girl everybody thinks is a liar?
Jane, you are mistaken. Probably not one in the school dislikes you. Many, I am sure, pity you.
After what Mr. Brocklehurst said?
Mr. Brocklehurst is not a god. He is not even a great and admired man. He is not liked here. You would have found enemies had he treated you well. Besides, Jane, if all the world hated you and believed you wicked while your own conscience approved you, you would not be without friends.
But I cannot bear to be solitary and hated, Helen.
You think too much of the love of human beings, Jane.
In the months that followed, Helen was my dearest company. She had evinced for me a quiet and faithful friendship, but she took ill for some weeks. I had not understood the seriousness of her illness until late, when I overheard the teachers discussing her.
They say she'll not be here long.
Helen? Helen, are you awake?
Jane, what are you doing here? It is late.
I came to see you.
You came to say goodbye. You were just in time, I think.
Are you going home?
I am going to heaven.
No, Helen.
Jane, your feet are bare. Lie down under the blanket. I am very happy, Jane. You must not grieve. We all must die one day, and I am not in pain. I am going to God. He is my maker and yours, and he will never destroy what he created.
And I shall see you again?
No doubt. Stay with me, Jane.
No one will take me away.
Good night, Jane.
Good night, Helen.
Back into my present, I awoke in a comfortable bed, surrounded by 3 unfamiliar faces.
You're awake.
Where am I?
At Morehouse. Try to eat.
Yes, try.
Not too much at first. She will be ill. What is your name?
Jane Elliot. Jane Elliot.
Where do you live? Is there anyone we can send for?
No, I have no one.
You must be able to give an account for yourself.
St. John, be kind. She is weak. She needs rest.
Let her rest and eat. We will speak more with her tomorrow.
I rested several days before I was well enough to come down.
Oh, we could have helped you. You still look pale and so thin, you poor thing. You should not be in here. You are a guest. The kitchen is no place for you.
And the fire may be too hot for you.
I'm quite well.
Come into the parlor. You must eat something.
Thank you. I trust I will not eat long at your expense.
No. When you have indicated to us the residence of your friends, we can write to them and see you restored home.
I am afraid I am without a home and friends, sir.
Do you mean to say that you are completely isolated from every connection?
Yes.
You are unmarried?
Why, she can't be older than 18, St. John.
I am nearly 19, and I am not married, sir.
Where did you last reside?
You are too inquisitive, St. John.
I cannot say.
That is your right, Miss Elliot.
You said your name was Jane Elliot.
It is an alias.
We will not give your real name.
No. I fear discovery.
Yet, if I know nothing about you, I cannot help you. And you need help, do you not?
Yes. Sir, all I seek is to get work, which I can do so that I can have the bare necessities of life.
I'm willing to aid you as best I can to such an honest purpose. What can you do?
I can teach. I was a teacher at a charitable institution, and a private governess after. But I will do whatever I must. Show me how to work, or how to seek work. That is all I ask. Then let me go. But till then, please, allow me to stay.
Indeed, you shall stay here.
You shall.
My sisters have a pleasure in keeping you as they would the pleasure of keeping a half-frozen bird. I feel more inclination to put you in the way of keeping yourself, and shall endeavor to do so, but my sphere is narrow. I am but the incumbent of a poor country parish. My aid will be humble.
I will be a dressmaker, a workswoman, a servant, a nurse girl. Anything I can.
Right. If such is your spirit, I promise to aid you in my own time and way.
St. John kept his promise. I spoke several weeks later to him on the subject.
Ah, Miss Elliot. You have a question to ask of me?
Sir, I wish to know whether you have heard of any service I may undertake.
I have. It depends only on me to give and you to accept. Well, let me tell you frankly, I have nothing profitable to suggest. Since I am myself poor and obscure, I can offer you only a service of poverty and obscurity. You may think it degrading, but I consider that no service degrades which can better our race. I believe you will accept the post I offer you, and hold it for a while, though not permanently. Your nature is not fond of repose any more than mine, that is clear.
Please explain.
It is a poor proposal. Morton has no school. The children of the poor were excluded from every hope of progress when I arrived. I established one for the boys. I mean now to open one for girls. I have hired a building for it, with a small cottage attached for the mistress. Her salary will be about £30 a year, and her house is already furnished, very simply, mind you, but sufficiently. Will you be this mistress?
Thank you for the proposal, Mr. Rivers. I accept.
But you comprehend me. It is a village school. Your pupils will only be poor girls, farmers' daughters. Knitting, sewing, reading, and writing will be all you have to teach. What will you do with your accomplishments?
Save them till they are wanted. They will keep.
Thank you, Miss Elliot.
My past was constantly on my mind, and I again relived it. Lowood was my world for 8 years, 6 as a student and 2 as a teacher. But I remembered the real world was wide, and I longed to experience it. I had tired of routine. I desired liberty. I advertised seeking a post as governess. I had but one reply.
How do you do, my dear? You've had a long journey. Come to the fire. I am Mrs. Fairfax.
Hello. Thank you, ma'am. Shall I have the pleasure of seeing Miss Fairfax today?
Miss Fairfax? Oh, you mean Miss Varens.
She is not your daughter?
No. I have no family, dear. Miss Varens is Mr. Rochester's ward.
Mr. Rochester? Who is he?
The owner of Thornfield.
I thought Thornfield belonged to you.
To me? Oh, bless you, child. What an idea. To me. No, I am only the housekeeper. I'm so glad you have come. It will be very pleasant now living with a companion. To be sure, it is pleasant at any time here at Thornfield, but in winter time one feels dreary quite alone. I say alone. Leah's a nice girl, to be sure, and John and his wife are decent people. But then you see, they are only servants, and one can't converse with them on terms of equality. Ah, there she is, Miss Adele.
Bonjour, mademoiselle.
She is from Paris. When she arrived, she could speak no English. Now she can speak a small amount. I don't understand her. She mixes it so with French. But you will make out her meaning well, I dare say.
I will. One of my teachers was French. I am accustomed to the tongue.
Well, we mustn't keep you up any later. I'll show you to your room. It's all been made up. We keep everything ready in case Mr. Rochester returns or brings back guests.
Is Mr. Rochester an exacting, fastidious sort of man?
Oh, no. Not particularly so. But he has a gentleman's tastes and habits, and he expects to have things managed in conformity to them.
Do you like him?
I have no cause not to. And I believe he is considered a just landlord by his tenants.
What is his character?
Oh, his character is unimpeachable, I suppose. He's clever, though rather peculiar.
Peculiar? In what way?
I don't know. It's not easy to describe. Nothing striking, but you feel it when he speaks to you. You cannot always be sure whether he is in jest or in earnest. But he is a good master.
What was that?
Oh, one of the servants. Grace Poole, perhaps. She sews here, and she laughs in that way. I will speak to her. Are you comfortable?
Very, ma'am. Thank you.
Good night, dear.
So began 3 months of tranquillity. I valued Mrs. Fairfax's goodness and Adele's, but I could not help it. I was restless. Tranquillity is not satisfactory for human beings. We, women as well as men, must have action. Mrs. Fairfax had wanted a letter posted. I happily volunteered to post it, longing for the pleasure of an afternoon walk. I reached the misty road of Hay Lane. Are you injured, sir? Can I help you?
Stand aside.
Sir, if you were hurt, I can fetch help from Thornfield Hall.
There are no broken bones. It is only a sprain.
I cannot think of leaving you, sir, until I see you are fit to mount your horse.
I should think you ought to be home yourself. It is late. Where do you come from?
Just below, at Thornfield Hall. I have been to post a letter in Hay.
You are not a servant, that is clear.
I am the governess.
Ah, yes, I had forgotten. The governess. I will not commission you to fetch help, but you may help me yourself, if you will be so kind. Excuse me. Necessity compels me to make you useful.
He leaned on me with some stress and limped to his horse.
Now hand me my whip. Over there, in the hedge.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Now make haste.
Oh, good. You're back.
What is the doctor doing here? Is everything all right?
Oh, yes, dear. Mr. Rochester has come, and he had a nasty fall in Hay Lane. His ankle is sprained, but nothing serious. He's asked to meet you.
Mr. Rochester?
Yes. Come, dear. You had better change your frock.
Change my frock?
Oh, yes, you had better. I always dress for the evening when Mr. Rochester is here. Here is Miss Eyre, sir.
Let Miss Eyre be seated.
Will you hand Mr. Rochester his cup? Adele might perhaps spill it.
Monsieur, is there a cadeau for me and Miss Eyre?
Did you expect a present, Miss Eyre? Are you fond of presents?
I hardly know, sir. I have little experience with them. They are generally thought pleasant things.
Generally thought. What do you think?
A present has many faces to it, has it not? One should consider all before pronouncing an opinion to its nature.
Miss Eyre, you are not so unsophisticated as Adele. She demands her presents outright. You beat around the bush.
Because I have less confidence than Adele has. She can make the claim of old acquaintance. I am a stranger, and have done nothing to entitle me to one.
Oh, don't fall back on over modesty. I have examined Adele and found you have taken great pains with her. She is not bright, she has no talents, and yet, in a short time, she has made much improvement.
Sir, you have now given me my present. Praise of my pupil's progress.
Come to the fire. You have lived here 3 months?
Yes, sir.
Where did you come from?
From Lowood School.
How long were you there?
8 years.
8 years? You must be tenacious of life. No wonder you have the look of another world. When you came upon me in Hay Lane last night, I thought unaccountably of fairy tales. Who are your parents?
I have none.
Nor ever had, I suppose. Do you remember them?
No.
I thought not. And so were you waiting for your people on the road?
For whom, sir?
For the elves and witches.
They all left England 100 years ago, sir. I'm afraid I'm the only one left behind.
Well, if you disown parents, you must have some other family. Uncles and aunts?
No, none that I ever saw.
Who recommended you to come here?
I advertised, and Mrs. Fairfax answered my advertisement.
Yes, and I'm daily thankful for the choice Providence led me to make. Miss Eyre has been an invaluable companion to me, and a kind and careful teacher to Adele.
Don't trouble yourself to give her a character. I will judge for myself. She began by felling my horse.
Sir?
She bewitched my horse. Miss Eyre, have you seen much society?
None but the pupils and teachers of Lowood, and now the inmates of Thornfield.
You have lived the life of a nun. No doubt you are well drilled in religious forms. Brocklehurst of Lowood is a parson, is he not?
Yes, sir.
And you girls probably worshipped him.
Oh, no.
A novice not worship her priest? That sounds blasphemous.
I disliked Mr. Brocklehurst, and I was not alone in the feeling. He is a harsh man, but I have studied the scriptures and found my own faith in God.
How old were you when you went to Lowood?
About 10.
And you stayed there about 8 years. You are now, then, 18.
Yes, sir.
Arithmetic, you see, is useful. Without its aid, I could hardly have been able to guess your age. What did they teach you there? Do you play?
A little.
Of course, this is the established answer. Go to the piano and play. I mean, if you please. Miss Eyre, you must excuse my tone of command. I am used to saying, do this, and it is done. I cannot alter my habits for one new inmate. Enough! You are right. You play a little.
He was eyeing my watercolour paintings now, which Adele had brought to him proudly.
Where did you find the inspiration for these?
Out of my head, sir.
That head on your shoulders?
Yes, sir.
Were you happy when you painted these?
I was, sir. To paint is one of the keenest pleasures I have ever known.
Well, then, you know very few pleasures indeed. Were you satisfied with them?
Far from it. I was tormented by the contrast between my imagination and my handiwork. In each case I had imagined something which I was quite powerless to realize.
It is 9 o'clock. What are you about, Miss Eyre, keeping Adele up so long? Go and put her to bed.
Yes, sir. Good night, sir.
What did you think of the master, dear?
I am not sure. He's very abrupt.
Oh, yes, that he is. I suppose I don't notice it anymore. Yes, well, he has had a hard life. Family troubles, I think it was. After his elder brother and father passed, he's not been the same. Be patient with him, miss. You mustn't think of leaving me over it.
Oh, I wouldn't, Mrs. Fairfax. I am quite happy here.
And I to have you here.
It was several days before I saw him again. He summoned me once more.
Come, Miss Eyre. Sit here. You examine me, Miss Eyre. Do you think me handsome?
No, sir.
Oh, upon my word, there is something singular about you. You have the air of a little nun, quaint, quiet, grave and simple, as you sit with your hands before you and your eyes generally on the carpet, except, by the by, when they are directed piercingly to my face. And when someone asks you a question, you rap out a brusque rejoinder. What do you mean by it?
Sir, I was too plain. I beg your pardon. I ought to have replied that beauty is of little consequence.
You ought to have replied no such thing. Beauty of little consequence indeed. What fault do you find with me?
Sir, allow me to disown my first answer. It was a blunder.
Just so. And you shall be answerable for it. Now, ma'am, am I a fool?
Far from it, sir. You would perhaps think me rude if I inquired if you are a philanthropist.
There again, another stick of the penknife. No, young lady, I am not a philanthropist, but I bear a conscience. When I was as old as you, I was partial to the unfledged, unfostered, and unlucky. But fortune has knocked me about since. You look very puzzled, Miss Eyre, and though you are not pretty any more than I am handsome, a puzzled air becomes you. I am disposed to be gregarious and communicative tonight. That is why I sent for you. I am in need of company. I cannot talk to a vain little child, nor simple Dame Fairfax, but you might suit me. You puzzled me the first evening I invited you down here. It would please me now to draw you out, to learn more of you. Therefore, speak. Go on.
About what, sir?
Whatever you like. You are mute, Miss Eyre. Stubborn. And annoyed. I put my request in an absurd, almost insolent form. I beg your pardon, Miss Eyre. The fact is, I don't wish to treat you as an inferior. I only claim such superiority as must result from being greater in age and experience. When I am alone, often my thoughts dwell on darker things. I should like you to divert me.
I am willing to divert you, sir, but I am unsure what would interest you. But I do not think that you have the right to command me merely because you are older than I, or have seen more of the world than I have. Your claim to superiority depends on the use you have made of your time and experience.
Well, that would not suit me. I've made poor use of both. Leaving superiority out of the question, then, you must still agree to receive my orders now and then, without being piqued or hurt by the tone of command. A smile. Tell me, what does it mean?
I was thinking, sir, that very few masters would trouble themselves to inquire whether or not their paid subordinates were hurt by their orders.
Paid subordinates? I had forgotten the salary. Well then, on that mercenary ground, will you agree to let me hector you a little?
No, sir, not on that ground, but on the ground that you care whether or not a dependent is comfortable in his dependency.
And will you consent to dispense with the conventional forms and phrases, without thinking that a mission arises from insolence?
I'm sure, sir, I should never mistake informality for insolence. One I rather like, the other nothing freeborn would submit to, even for a salary.
Humbug. Most things freeborn will submit to anything for a salary. I mentally shake hands with you for your answer, however, despite its inaccuracy. Not 3,000 schoolgirl governesses would have answered me as you just have. But I don't mean to flatter you. For what I yet know, you may have intolerable defects to counterbalance your few good points. God knows I have plenty of faults of my own. I was thrust onto the wrong road when I was young, and have never recovered the right course since. But I might have been different. I might have been as good as you. I envy your peace of mind, your clean conscience, your unpolluted memory. A memory without blot of contamination must be an exquisite treasure, an inexhaustible source of pure refreshment. Is it not? I was your equal at 18, quite your equal. Nature meant me to be, on the whole, a good man. But you see, I am not so. When fate wronged me, I had not the wisdom to remain cool. I turned desperate. Then I degenerated. I wish I had stood firm. God knows I do. Dread remorse when you are tempted to err, Miss Eyre. Remorse is the poison of life.
Repentance is said to be its cure, sir.
It is not its cure. Reformation may be its cure. but what is the use of thinking it, cursed as I am? Besides, since happiness is denied me, I have a right to get pleasure out of life. And I will get it, cost what it may.
Then you will degenerate still more, sir.
Where are you going?
To put Adele to bed. It is past her bedtime.
You are afraid of me.
I'm not afraid. I simply have no wish to talk nonsense.
If you did, it would be in such a grave and quiet manner, I should mistake it for sense. Do you never laugh, Miss Eyre? No. I should think you do. You are no more naturally austere than I am naturally vicious. The lowered constraint still clings to you, but I see it at intervals, the glance of a curious sort of bird through the bars of a cage, a vivid, restless, resolute captive. But where it's set free, it would soar cloud high. Miss Eyre, walk with me. Since you are to bring up Adele, I think it best that you know her background.
There is no need.
I insist.
Then I will listen, sir.
I told you of my desperation and how I resolved to find pleasure at all costs.
Yes, sir.
Adele is the daughter of a French opera dancer, from whom I once cherished a great passion. Her name was Céline Valens, and she professed to return my feelings. I was so flattered by this that I installed her in a hotel, gave her everything I could. Servants, a carriage, diamonds. In short, I began the process of ruining myself, like all other foolish lovers. Only you, Jane, could hear such a thing as you just did.
What do you mean, sir?
Not a hint of judgment or disgust or even pity. You just listened to me intently.
I like to listen to you, sir.
Yes, well, I called one evening when she did not expect me. She had gone out, but I was content to wait for her on her balcony. When she returned, I found her with another man. You never felt jealousy, did you, Miss Eyre? Of course not, because you never felt love. Well, she claimed Adele was my daughter, and perhaps she may be, though I see no proof in her. Pilot is more like me than she. Some years after I had broken with the mother, she abandoned her child and ran away to Italy with a musician or singer. I acknowledge no natural claim on Adele's part to be supported by me, but hearing that she was quite destitute, I took the poor thing and transported her here. But now that you know that this is the illegitimate offspring of a French opera girl, you will perhaps think differently of your post and protégé. You will be coming to me with notice and beg me to look out for a new governess, eh?
No, Adele is not answerable for either her mother's faults or yours. I have a regard for her, and now that I know she is, in a sense, parentless, I shall cling closer to her than before.
Aren't you a charitable thing?
No, not charitable. Only that I have been in her shoes, or something like them.
We must go in. It is getting dark. Thank you, Miss Eyre.
I appreciated Mr. Rochester's confidence in me to relay such a tale. His attitude toward me had been more uniform than at first. I never seemed in his way. When he met me unexpectedly, the encounter seemed welcome. He summoned me often to his presence, and seemed to enjoy the time we spoke. I took a keen delight in hearing the new ideas he offered. The ease of his manner freed me from restraint. His presence in a room became bright. I had not forgotten his faults, but I believed they came from some cruel twist of fate. I grieved for his grief, whatever it was, and hoped to extinguish it. That night, I mused on that curious subject before sleep, yet I was awoken by a strange sound. Who's there? Outside my door, a candle burned. but the scent of smoke drew me to Mr. Rochester's door ajar. The curtains of his bed were on fire, and in the midst of it, he was motionless, asleep.
Mr. Rochester! Mr. Rochester, wake up!
Is there a flood? Use the blankets. What happened?
I heard a strange laugh in the gallery. When I came to investigate, I smelled the smoke. Shall I call Mrs. Fairfax?
Miss Fairfax? No, what the deuce will she do? Let her sleep. I am going to leave you for a few minutes. Remain where you are until I return. Be as still as a mouse. Do not move or call anyone. I have found it all out. It is as I thought.
How, sir?
I forget whether you said you saw anything.
No, sir. Only the candlestick on the ground.
But you heard an odd laugh. You've heard that laugh before, I should think, or something like it.
Yes, sir. There is a woman who sews here, called Grace Poole. She laughs in that way. She is a singular person.
Just so. Grace Poole, you have guessed it. She is, as you say, singular. Well, I shall reflect on the subject. Jane, you are the only person, beside myself, acquainted with the details of tonight's incident. You are no talking fool. Say nothing about it. I will account for the state of affairs. Now return to your room. It is near 4. In 2 hours the servants will be up.
Good night then, sir.
What? You are leaving already? And in that way?
You said I might go, sir.
But not without taking leave. Not in that brief, dry fashion. Jane, you have saved my life. Snatched me from a horrible and excruciating death. And now you walk past me as if we were mere strangers. At least, shake hands.
He held out his hand, and I gave him mine. He took it first in one, then in both his own.
You have saved my life. I have a pleasure in owing you so immense a debt. Nothing else that has being would have been tolerable to me in the character of creditor. But with you, it is different. I feel your benefit, no burden, Jane.
Good night again, sir. There is no debt, benefit, burden, or obligation in the case.
I knew you would do me good in some way, at some time. I saw it in your eyes when I first beheld you. Their expression and smile did not strike delight to my very innermost heart for nothing.
I am glad I happened to be awake.
You will go then.
I am cold, sir.
Cold?
Yes.
Go then, Jane. Go.
He released my hand at last. I returned to my room, but found myself too feverish to sleep. I was tossed on a buoyant sea of joy. I rose as the day dawned. I both wished and feared to see Mr. Rochester on the day which followed this sleepless night, but I did not. I did, however, encounter Grace Poole, sewing rings to new bed curtains.
Good morning, miss.
Good morning, Grace. Has anything happened here? I thought I heard the servants talking a while ago.
The master had been reading in his bed last night. He fell asleep with his candle lit and the curtains caught on fire. Fortunately, he awoke in time.
How strange. Did he wake no one? No one heard him move?
The servants sleep so far off, you know, miss. They would not be likely to hear. Yours and Mrs. Fairfax's room are the nearest to the master's, but she heard nothing. But you are young, miss, and I dare say a light sleeper. Perhaps you may have heard something?
I did. At first I thought it was Pilot, but Pilot cannot laugh. and I heard a strange one.
It is hardly likely the master would laugh when he was in such danger, miss. You must have been dreaming.
I was not dreaming.
Have you told the master you heard a laugh?
I have not yet seen him.
You did not think of opening your door and looking out?
On the contrary, I bolted my door.
It would be wise to do so every night, miss.
Come, Miss Eyre. Join me for tea. You aren't well. You look flushed.
I am quite well, Mrs. Fairfax. I never felt better.
Well, then. You must prove it by eating something, my dear.
Yes, ma'am.
It is a lovely day out. Mr. Rochester has chosen a favourable one for his journey.
Mr. Rochester has left?
Oh, yes. He set off early this morning. He has gone to Mr. Eshton's place, 10 miles off. I believe there's quite a party assembled there.
Do you expect him back tonight?
Oh, no. Not tomorrow either. I think he's very likely to stay a week or more. When these fine, fashionable people get together, they are in no hurry to separate. Gentlemen especially. Mr. Rochester is a general favourite. The ladies are very fond of him. Blanche Ingram, particularly.
Blanche Ingram? What is she like?
Yes. Oh, she is quite beautiful, Jane. She was considered the belle of the ball last I saw her. Tall, fine bust, sloping shoulders. She is greatly admired. Oh, Jane, you have not eaten. You've scarcely taken a bite.
I am not hungry, thank you. There was no greater fool than I to imagine myself a favourite of Mr. Rochester's. I punished myself for the fantasy. He would court Miss Ingram, marry her. He had been gone a fortnight before he returned, with a party of people, among them Miss Ingram.
Monsieur Rochester!
Calm yourself, Adele.
Oh, what beautiful ladies! Do you think Monsieur Rochester was sent for us?
No, indeed. Never mind the ladies tonight. Perhaps you will see them tomorrow.
You will see them this evening. Mr. Rochester has asked you both to join him in the drawing room.
He said that from mere politeness. I need not go.
Well, I observed to him that since you are unused to company, I did not think you would like appearing before such a party, or strangers. He told me that if you object, to tell you that it is his particular wish, and if you refuse, he will come fetch you himself.
Bonjour, mesdames!
Oh, what a little doll!
It is Mr. Rochester's ward, I suppose. The little French girl he was speaking of.
Oh, what a love of a child! Come here, pet.
Mr. Rochester, I thought you were not fond of children.
I am not.
Then what induced you to take charge of such a little doll as that?
She was left on my hands.
You should have sent her to school. But I suppose you instead have a governess for her. I saw her just now, hiding behind the window curtain.
My dear, don't mention the governess. The word makes me nervous. I have suffered greatly from their incompetency. Thank heaven I am now done with them.
Lady Ingram, the girl's governess is right here.
Well, then I hope it will do her good. I noticed her. I see all the faults of her class.
I have just one word to say to the lot of them. They are a nuisance. But let us move on from this. Let us play some music, shall we, Mr. Rochester?
Quietly, I found my chance to escape, exiting into the hall. I stopped briefly to tie my shoe.
How do you do?
I am very well, sir.
Why did you not come and speak to me in the room?
I did not wish to disturb you. You seemed engaged, sir.
What have you been doing during my absence?
Nothing particular. Teaching Adele, as usual.
And getting a good deal paler than you were. What is the matter?
Nothing at all, sir.
Did you catch a cold that night you half drowned me?
No, sir.
Return to the drawing room. You are deserting too early.
I am tired, sir.
And a little depressed. What about? Tell me.
Nothing. Nothing, sir. I am not depressed.
You are. So much depressed that a few more words would bring tears to your eyes. If I had time, I would know what all this means. Well, tonight I excuse you, but But understand that so long as my visitors stay, I expect you to appear in the drawing room every evening. It is my wish. Good night, Yes, good night.
Thornfield received a visitor that week. He called himself Mr. Mason and insisted upon waiting for his dear friend Mr. Rochester. Everyone liked him, except me. Something in his look, and the way his eyes wandered, disturbed me.
Ladies, you talked of going to visit a fortune teller in town. Well, it seems one is at the door right now.
Oh, send her away at once.
We have tried, but she is refusing to go. She is insisting to tell the gentry their fortunes. She says she must and will do it.
Have her in, at once. It would be 1,000 pities to throw away such a chance at fun.
I want to hear my fortune told. I will go see her first.
15 minutes passed before she returned.
Well, Blanche?
My whim is gratified. Now I think Mr. Eshton would do well to put her in the stocks tomorrow.
Whatever the fortune teller had told her, Miss Ingram clearly attached importance to, and she had not liked what she had heard. Her face darkened and grew more sour by the minute.
If you please, miss, the woman is insisting that there is one more young lady who has not been to see her, and she swears she will not go until she has seen all. If it will make you feel safe, I can wait in the hall for you. You can call if she frightens you.
Thank you, Sam, but I am not afraid.
You want your fortune told?
Do as you wish. I do not care, but I ought to warn you. I have no faith.
Why not?
Because I am not silly.
Why don't you tremble?
I'm not cold or sick.
Oh, poor girl. But you are cold and sick and silly.
Am I?
You are cold because you are alone, with no one's love to warm you. You are sick because the best of feelings given to man evade you. And you are silly because you do not go where it may meet you.
The same is true of any solitary dependent in a great house such as this.
Is it really now? Well, find me another like you.
It would be easy to find you thousands.
You could scarcely find me in one of your circumstances. Very near happiness, yes, in reach of it. The materials are all there, prepared. There only need be a movement to combine them.
I'm not fond of riddles.
If you wish for me to speak more plainly, show me your palm. It is too fine. Why, it's almost without lines. I can make nothing of a hand like that. Besides, what is in a palm? Destiny is not written there.
On that, I believe we agree.
No, it's in the face. I wonder with what feelings you came to me tonight. I wonder what thoughts occupy your heart when you sit in that room with all those people. Have you any interest in any of them? Is there not one face you study with at least curiosity?
I like to observe all of them and listen to their tales.
What tales do they tell?
Usually of courtship and marriage.
Do you like them?
It amuses me to listen, but I do not care deeply. It is nothing to me.
Nothing to you? Oh, and a beautiful, charming young lady endowed with a rank sits and smiles in the eyes of a gentleman you...
I what?
You know, and perhaps think well of.
I do not know the gentleman here.
What of the master of the house?
He is not here.
Does that blot him out of existence?
No, but I can hardly see what Mr. Rochester has to do with this.
You've seen them talking. Have you not seen his gratitude for her attentions?
I do not remember detecting gratitude in his face.
Ah, detecting. So you've analysed. And what did you detect, if not gratitude? Ah, you have seen love.
Not exactly. Your witch's skill is failing you, ma'am. I have come to inquire, not to confess. Is it known that Mr. Rochester is to be married?
Yes, and to the beautiful Miss Ingram.
Soon?
Appearances would warrant that conclusion.
Never mind. I did not come to hear Mr. Rochester's fortune. I came to hear my own.
Your fortune is yet doubtful. Chance has given you a measure of happiness. It depends on you to take it up.
Who is there? Come out immediately.
I suppose the play's played out.
My master came out from his hiding place. Sir! He paid the woman, and she left us.
Well, Jane?
What a strange idea, sir.
But well carried out, eh? Don't you think so?
With the ladies you must have managed well, sir.
But not with you.
I do not believe she acted the character with me. I believe you wanted her to draw me out. You made her talk nonsense to make me talk nonsense, and that is not fair, sir.
You're right. But you did not talk nonsense. Don't worry yourself. Do you forgive me, Jane?
I don't know. I shall have to think about it. Do I have your permission to retire now?
No. Stay a moment. Tell me, what are the people out there doing?
Discussing the fortune teller, I dare say. Oh, are you aware, sir, that a stranger has arrived here since you left this morning?
A stranger? Who was it?
He claimed he had known you long and could take the liberty of staying here until you returned.
The devil he did. Did he give his name?
Mason, sir, from the West Indies.
Mason. The West Indies.
Sir? Are you all right, sir?
Jane, I've been dealt a blow. I've been dealt a blow.
Here, let me help you. Come, sit.
Where is he?
Out there, with the others.
Jane, what would you do if all those people in there came in here and spat at me, and then all left me, one by one? Would you go with them?
Of course not. I would much rather stay with you.
Then you could dare judgment for my sake.
I'd dare it for any friend who deserved it, as I'm sure you do.
Jane, go in there and tell Mason that I have come. Show him in here, and then leave us.
Yes, sir. Sometime later that night.
What has
happened?
Where's Rochester?
I am here. Be composed, all of you. A servant has had a nightmare, that is all. Now then, I must see you all back to your rooms. All is well, and I will see you in the morning. Jane, come with me. Have you a sponge in your room, and any smelling salts?
I do, sir.
Bring them. Follow me, and make no noise.
He guided me up the stairs and stopped in the dark, low corridor of the fateful third story. He put his key in the lock, then paused.
Jane, you don't grow sick at the sight of blood, do you?
I think I shall not. I've never been tried.
Give me your hand.
We entered a deserted hallway. A tapestry was looped out of the way of a door usually concealed. A man was seated in a chair, pale and with one arm soaked in blood.
Are we in danger?
Ah, a mere scratch. Bear up, man. I'm going to fetch a surgeon for you myself. Jane, I will have to leave you for an hour or two. I need you to sponge the blood, revive him with the salts if he grows faint. You will not speak to him under any circumstances. Richard, it will be at the peril of your life if you speak to her. I will not answer for the consequences. Do not make a sound.
Hours I waited, my mind worrying. What creature was this that could not be expelled or subdued by my master? What mystery that broke out in fire and now in blood in the dead of the night? Mason continued to weaken. I feared he was dying.
You have half an hour to dress the wound and get him downstairs.
Is he fit to move?
Oh, no doubt of it. It is nothing serious. How are you, my good fellow?
I'm done for, I fear.
Nonsense, man. You've only lost a little blood.
She bit me.
You should not have yielded. You should have grappled with her.
She looked so quiet at first.
I warned you to be on your guard.
She sucked blood. She said she'd drain my heart.
Be silent, Richard. Never mind her gibberish.
I wish I could forget it.
There you are, sir. All patched up.
Carter, take care of him. Keep him at your house until he is quite well.
Edward, take care of her. Let her be treated as tenderly as may be.
I do my best and will continue to do it. Jane, come walk with me for a few moments. That house is a mere dungeon.
Oh, not to me, sir. It seems to me a splendid mansion.
Come, look at the sunrise.
It is lovely.
You have survived a strange night, Jane. Were you afraid when I left you alone with Mason?
I was afraid of someone in the inner room.
I had locked the door. You were safe. I'd have been a very poor shepherd if I had left a lamb unguarded in a wolf's den.
Will Grace Poole live here still, sir?
Oh, yes. Don't trouble yourself about her. Put it out of your thoughts.
But it seems your life is not safe if she stays.
I can take care of myself.
Is the danger Mr. Mason brought with him over?
Not till he is out of England. Not even then. To live for me, Jane, is to stand over a crater crust, which may crack and spew fire any day.
But Mr. Mason seems like a man easily led, sir. He will not defy you, or willfully injure you.
Oh no. Mason will not defy me, nor, knowing it, will he hurt me. But one careless word from him might deprive me forever of happiness. Now you are puzzled. I will puzzle you more. We are friends, are we not?
I like to serve you, sir, and to obey you in all that is right.
In all that is right. Jane, suppose you are no longer a girl, but a wild boy, indulged from childhood. Suppose that you went to a foreign land and while there committed a capital error.
An error?
Yes. Not a crime, but an error. But one whose consequences must follow you through life. The consequences become utterly insupportable. You take measures to obtain relief, but you are still miserable. Heart weary and soul withered, you come home after years of voluntary banishment. And you meet someone new. And you find in this person the goodness and purity you have sought for many years. Such society revives and regenerates you. You feel better days coming back, higher wishes, purer feelings. You desire never to be parted from this person. Tell me, am I justified in overleaping an obstacle of custom, a mere conventional impediment, and daring the world's opinion, in order to attach her to me forever?
Sir, a sinner's reformation should never depend on a fellow creature. Men and women die, and Christians falter in goodness. Let him look higher than his equals for strength to amend.
But I have found her, Jane. I have found the one God has brought. Jane, you have noticed my attachment to Miss Ingram. Don't you think if I married her, she would regenerate me with a vengeance? She's a rare one, Jane, is she not?
Yes, sir. I received a letter from my cousins at Gateshead. This was a surprise to me, but it's news even more so.
Mr. Rochester, does that person want you?
Miss Ingram, wait for me there. Well, Jane?
If you please, sir, I need a leave of absence for a week or two.
What to do? Where to go?
To see a sick woman who has sent for me.
What sick woman? Where does she live?
At Gateshead.
That's 100 miles off. Who is it that sends for people to see her at that distance?
Her name is Reed, sir. Mrs. Reed.
Reed of Gateshead. There was a Reed of Gateshead, a magistrate.
It is his widow, sir. Mr. Reed was my uncle, my mother's brother.
You said you had no family.
None that would own me, sir. Mrs. Reed cast me off.
Why?
Because I was poor and burdensome, and she disliked me.
And what good can you do for her? Nonsense, Jane. I would never think of running 100 miles to see an old woman who dislikes you, and who may be dead before you reach her.
I cannot neglect her wishes.
And how long will you stay?
As short a time as possible, sir.
Promise me to only stay a week.
I cannot promise that. I might be obliged to break it.
But you will come back, won't you? You won't let them persuade you to stay there.
Oh, no. I shall certainly return if all be well.
When do you wish to leave?
Early tomorrow morning, sir.
Well, you will need money, and I have given you no salary yet. How much have you in the world, Jane?
5 shillings, sir.
Here.
It is £50, sir. You only owe me 15. I have no change.
I don't want change. You know that. Take your wages.
I cannot, sir.
Right. Better not give you all now. You would perhaps stay away 3 months if you had £50. Here is 10. Is that enough?
Yes, sir. But now you owe me 5.
Come back for it then.
Mr. Rochester, I may as well mention another matter.
I am curious to hear it.
You have as good as informed me, sir, that you will soon be married.
Yes, what of it?
In that case, sir, Adele ought to go to school.
There is sense in that. And you, Jane?
I must seek a situation elsewhere, sir. I shall advertise immediately.
You shall walk up the pyramids of Egypt. I wish I had not given you that money now. Jane, give me back £9. I have a use for it now.
So have I, sir.
You little miser. Give me £5 then.
Not 5 shillings, nor 5 pence, sir.
Just let me look at it.
No, sir. You are not to be trusted.
Jane, promise me one thing. Don't advertise. If you want a new situation, I'll find you one in time.
I shall be glad to do so, sir.
So, you and I must bid goodbye for a little while.
Yes, I suppose so.
And how do people perform that ceremony of parting, Jane? Teach me. I'm not quite up to it.
They say farewell, or any other form they prefer.
Then say it.
Farewell, Mr. Rochester. For the present.
What must I say?
The same, if you like.
Farewell, Miss Eyre. For the present. Is that it?
Yes, sir.
It seems dry and unfriendly. So you'll do no more than say farewell, Jane?
It is enough, sir.
Very likely. But it is blank and cool. Farewell.
I made my way to Gateshead. The place I had spent 8 years of my childhood had changed very little, but its inmates were unrecognizable.
Miss Eyre, how do you do?
Well, thank you.
Did you have a nice trip here?
It was well enough. How is Mrs. Reed?
She is poorly. I doubt if you can see her tonight.
If you would just step upstairs and tell her I am come, I would be grateful. I know she had a particular wish to see me.
Mamma dislikes being disturbed in the evening.
I do not wish to defer her desire any longer than necessary.
Bessie will take you.
Is this Jane Eyre?
Yes, Aunt Reed. How are you?
Jane Eyre. I have had more trouble with that child than anyone would believe. Such a burden to be left on my hands, and so much annoyance she caused me, daily and hourly. I declare she talked to me once like something mad, like a fiend. No. No child ever spoke or looked as she did. I was glad to get her away from this house. A fever broke out at that school, and many of the children died, but she did not. I wish she did.
Why do you hate her so?
I always disliked her mother. Always, always a favourite of my husband's. He doted on her, wept like a simpleton when she died. He loved that child like she was his own, trapped me in a vow to keep the creature.
You'd best try again another day, miss. She's having fits.
More than 10 days passed before I spoke with her. Meanwhile, I got on as best I could with my cousins. I drew to keep myself amused, as neither seemed to wish to speak to me, or each other. They both seemed surprised by my skill, and Georgiana shared her own watercolour. Then she wanted to talk, though her communications always ran on the same theme: herself, her loves, and woes. She seemed unmoved to tell me her brother had committed suicide years before, and hardly cared for her mother's illness. Liza scarcely spoke, but she did tell me that she intended to retire somewhere else. Will Georgiana accompany you?
Of course not. Georgiana and I have nothing in common. We never have. I won't be burdened with her society. Georgiana will go her way, and I will go mine.
Oh, I do hope I can go up to town with Aunt Gibson, perhaps even sooner. It would be so much better if I could get out of this dull place for a month or two, till it's all over.
Till what's all over? The funeral. Georgiana, a more vain and absurd creature than you certainly never existed on earth. You had no right to be born, for you make no use of life. Instead of living for, in, and with yourself as any reasonable being ought, you seek only to fasten your feebleness on some other person's strength. And if no one will burden themselves with such a useless creature, you cry out that you are ill-treated and neglected. Have you no sense to make yourself independent of all efforts and wills but your own? After my mother's death, I wash my hands of you. You and I will be separate, as if we'd never known each other. You need not think that because we were born of the same parents, I shall suffer you to fasten me down by even the feeblest claim. Even if the whole human race but us were swept away, and we two stood alone on the earth, I would leave you in the old world and betake myself to the new.
You might have spared yourself the trouble of delivering that tirade. Everybody knows you're the most selfish, heartless creature in existence, and I know your spiteful hatred toward me. You have ruined my prospects forever.
It was a few afternoons later that I spoke with my aunt.
Who's there?
Jane, Aunt Reed.
Jane Eyre, you have come.
I came as soon as you called.
I am very ill, you know. It is well I should ease my mind before I die. I have twice done you wrong, which I regret now. One was in breaking the promise I made my husband to bring you up as my own. As for the other, go to my dressing case and take the letter.
Madame, will you have the goodness to send me the address of my niece, Jane Eyre? It is my intention to bring her to me in Madeira. Providence has blessed my endeavours to secure competency, and as I am unmarried and childless, I wish to adopt her during my life, and bequeath her at my death whatever I may have to leave. Yours, John Eyre. 3 years back. Why did I never hear of this?
Because I disliked you too much to ever lend a hand in lifting you to prosperity. I could not forget your conduct to me, Jane. The fury with which you declared you abhorred me. Your unchildlike look and voice.
Drink. Think no more of all of this. Forgive me for my passionate language. I was a child then.
I tell you, I could not forget it. I took my revenge. I wrote back to your uncle and told him you were dead. Now, write him, contradict my assertion, expose my falsehood. You were born to be my torment, I think. My last hour is racked by the recollection of deeds which, if not for you, I would never have been tempted to commit.
Aunt, think no more of it, and regard me with kindness and forgiveness.
You have a very bad disposition. How, for 9 years, you could be patient, and then, in the 10th, break out in violence. I will never understand you.
My disposition is not so bad as you think. I am passionate, but I am not vindictive. I should have been glad to love you if you would have let me. I want earnestly to be reconciled. I approached my cheek to her lips, but she recoiled. Love me then, or hate me as you will. You have my full and free forgiveness. Ask now for God's, and be at peace. It was too late for her to change her mind. Living, she had ever hated me. Dying, she must hate me still. She died that night. Georgiana wept heartily. Eliza was silent. Then,
with her constitution, she should have lived to a good old age. Her life was shortened by trouble.
Mr. Rochester had given me 1 week's leave of absence, yet a month elapsed before I returned to Thornfield. Georgiana had wished me to stay until she could get off to London, and Eliza asked me to look after the house for a short time. I was glad to be getting back. I found him on my path home, writing the book.
Hello! There you are. Come on, if you please. And this is Jane Eyre, just one of your tricks to come on foot. Where have you been the last month?
With my aunt, sir, who is dead.
A true Janian reply. Good angels be my God, she comes from the abode of the dead, and truant, absent from me a whole month, and forgetting me quite, I'm sure.
I thought you were in London, sir.
Yes, I suppose you found that out by second sight?
Mrs. Fairfax told me in a letter.
And did she inform you what I went to do?
Yes, sir.
You must see the carriage, Jane, and tell me if you don't think it will suit Mrs. Rochester exactly. I do wish Jane were a trifle better adapted to match with her externally. Tell me now, fairy that you are, can't you give me a charm of some kind?
It would be past the power of magic, sir.
Go on, Jane, go home, and rest your wandering feet at a friend's threshold.
Thank you, Mr. Rochester, for your great kindness. I am strangely glad to get back to you. Wherever you are is my home. My only home. I was not sure what had come over me. I walked on so fast that he could hardly have overtaken me had he tried. A fortnight of dubious calm succeeded my return to Thornfield Hall. Never did he call me more frequently to his presence, and never been kinder to me when there. A splendid midsummer shone over England. Once Adele had fallen asleep, I took a walk in the garden. I found Mr. Rochester there as well.
Thornfield is a pleasant place in summer, is it not?
Yes, sir.
You must have become in some degree attached to it.
I am.
And though I don't comprehend how it is, I perceive you regard that foolish little child Adele, and even simple Dame Fairfax,
I have an affection for them both.
and would be sorry to part with them?
Yes.
Pity. That's always the way of things in life. No sooner have you got settled than a voice calls out to rise and move on.
Must I move on, sir? Must I leave Thornfield?
Yes. I'm sorry, Jane, but I believe you must.
Then you are going to be married, sir?
Exactly. Precisely. With your usual acuteness, you have hit the nail straight on the head.
Soon, sir?
Very soon, that is, Miss Eyre. In about a month, I hope to be a bridegroom. In the interim, I shall myself look out for employment for you.
Thank you, sir. I am sorry to give.
Oh, no need to apologize. You have done your duty well. Indeed, I have already heard of a place I think will suit. It is to undertake the education of the 5 daughters of Miss Dionysius O'Gore, of Bitternut Lodge, Connacht, Ireland.
Ireland?
Yes. You'll like Ireland, I think. There's such warm-hearted people there, they say.
But Ireland is so far away.
From what, Jane?
Well, from England, and from Thornfield, and...
And?
From you, sir.
We have been good friends, Jane, have we not?
Yes, sir.
And when friends are on the eve of separation, they like to spend the little time that remains close to each other. Come, sit with me. It is a long way to Ireland, Jane, and I'm sorry to send my friend on such weary travels. But if I can't do better, how can it be helped? Are you anything akin to me, do you think, Jane? Because I sometimes have a queer feeling with regard to you, especially when you are near me. As now, it is as if I had a string somewhere under my left ribs, tightly and inextricably knotted to a similar string in you. And if that boisterous channel and 200 miles or so of land some broad between us, I am afraid the cord of communion will be snapped. And then I have a nervous notion I should take to bleeding inwardly. As for you, you'd forget me.
That I never should, sir. You know. I wish I had never been born. I wish I had never come here.
Because you are sorry to leave it.
I grieve to leave Thornfield. I love Thornfield. I love it because in it I have lived a full and delightful life. I have not been trampled on. I have not been petrified. I have talked face to face with what I reverence, with what I delight in, with an original, a vigorous and expanded mind. I have known you, Mr. Rochester, and it strikes me with terror and anguish to feel I must be torn from you forever. I see the necessity of departure, and it is like looking on the necessity of death.
Where do you see the necessity?
In the shape of your bride.
What bride? I have no bride.
But you will have.
Yes, I will. I will.
Then I must go. You have said it yourself.
No, Jane, you must stay. I swear it.
I tell you I must go. Do you think I am a machine without feelings? Do you think because I am poor, obscure, plain, and little, I am soulless and heartless? I have as much soul as you, and full as much heart. And if God had gifted me with beauty and wealth, I should make it as hard for you to leave me as it is now for me to leave you. I am not talking to you now through mortal flesh. It is my spirit that addresses your spirit, just as if both had passed through the grave, and we stood at God's feet, equal as we are.
As we are. So... So, Jane.
Yes, so, sir, and yet not so. You are a married man, or as good as married, and wed to one inferior to you. one whom I do not believe you truly love. I would scorn such a union. Therefore, I am better than you.
Jane, be still. Calm yourself.
I am a free human being with an independent will, which I now exert to leave you.
And your will shall decide your destiny. I offer you my hand, my heart, and a share of all my possessions.
Are you mocking me?
I ask you to pass through life at my side, to be my second self and best earthly companion. Jane, I summon you as my wife. It is only you I intend to marry. Come, Jane.
Your bride stands between us.
My bride is here because my equal is here, and my likeness. Jane, will you marry me? Do you doubt me, Jane?
Entirely!
Am I a liar in your eyes? What love have I for Miss Ingram? None. And that you know. What love has she for me? I would not, I care not marry Miss Ingram. You strange, you almost unearthly thing. I love you as my own flesh. You, poor and obscure and small and plain as you are, I entreat you to accept me as your husband.
What? Me?
You, Jane. I must have you for my own. Entirely my own. Will you be mine?
Are you in earnest? Do you truly love me? Do you sincerely wish me to be your wife?
I do. And if an oath is necessary to satisfy you, I swear it.
Then, sir...
Give me my name. Call me Edward.
Then, Edward, I will marry you.
Make my happiness. I will make yours. God pardon me. And man meddle not with me. I have her, and will hold her.
There is no one to meddle. I have no kindred to interfere.
No, that is the best of it. Are you happy, Jane?
Yes.
It will atone. It will atone. We must go in. Go, take off your wet things. And before you go, good night. Good night, my darling.
He kissed me repeatedly before leaving. Joy effaced every other feeling, even though the tree we had spoken under had been split in two by lightning overnight. The next morning, I found him in his study. It was not merely a cold word now, or even a shake of the hand that I received, but an embrace and a kiss. It seemed natural to be so well loved, so caressed by him.
Oh, Jane, you look blooming and smiling and pretty. Truly pretty this morning. Is this my pale little elf?
It is Jane Eyre, sir.
Soon to be Jane Rochester. In 4 weeks, Janet. Not a day more. You're blushing. What's that for?
Jane Rochester. It feels so strange.
Yes, Mrs. Rochester. Edward Fairfax Rochester's bride.
How can it be? Human beings never enjoy complete happiness in this world. It must be a daydream.
Which I can and will realise, beginning today. I wrote to my banker in London to send me certain jewels he has in his keeping. I will pour them into your lap.
Oh, no.
I'll put a chain of diamonds round your neck.
Don't speak to me as if I were a beauty. I am your plain, Quakerish governess.
You are beauty in my eyes, and I will make the world acknowledge you a beauty.
Then you won't know me, and I won't be your Jane Eyre any longer. I don't call you handsome, though I love you most dearly. Far too dearly to flatter you. Don't flatter me.
We shall sojourn in Europe together. 10 years since I flew through Europe half mad with disgust, hate, and rage as my companions. Now I shall revisit it healed and cleansed, with this very angel as my comforter.
I am not an angel, and I will not be one till I die. I will be myself, Edward. You must not expect anything celestial of me.
Well, what do you expect of me?
For a little while you will be as you are now, and then you will turn cool and stern, and I shall have much to do to please you. But when you get well used to me, you will perhaps like me again. Like, not love. But I do hope never to become distasteful to you.
Distasteful? And like you again? What little faith you have in me. I not only like, but love you. With truth, fervour, and constancy. Ask me something now, Janet. I will do whatever you ask.
Well, I would ask that you not send for the jewels.
I will rescind my request for them, but you must let me give you something else.
Well then, my curiosity is much piqued on one point.
What? Curiosity is a dangerous petition, Jane.
There can be no danger in this, sir.
I wish you had asked for half my estate, rather than a secret.
Half your estate? I would much rather have your confidence.
You are welcome to all my confidence that is worth having, but for God's sake, don't desire a useless burden.
Why not, sir? How stern you look now. This will be your married look, I suppose.
Oh, what did you need to ask? Thing, out with it.
There, you are less than civil now. I much prefer rudeness to flattery. I'd rather be a thing than an angel. Why did you take such pains to make me believe you wished to marry Miss Ingram?
Is that all? Thank God it is no worse. I think I may confess, even though I might make you indignant, Jane, it was to make you as madly in love with me as I was with you. I aimed to arouse your jealousy.
Excellent. Now you are small, not one whit bigger than the end of my little finger. That is a burning shame, sir. Did you think nothing of Miss Ingram's feelings?
Miss Ingram's feelings are only pride's. Were you jealous, Jane?
Never mind that. You have a curious and designing mind, Mr. Rochester.
My principles were never trained, Miss Eyre.
Miss Eyre, is it true? Mr. Rochester has asked you to marry him.
He has.
He has? Do you believe him? Have you accepted him?
Yes.
I could never have thought it. He is a proud man. All the Rochesters were proud. Is it really for love he is going to marry you? I am sorry to grieve you, but you are so young and so little acquainted with men. I wish to put you on your guard.
Why? Am I a monster? Is it impossible that Mr. Rochester could love me?
No. I have seen that Mr. Rochester is fond of you. I've always noticed that you were a favorite of his. Sometimes I worried over it. But I believed you so sensible that you might be trusted to protect yourself. Please be careful. Try and keep him at a distance. Gentlemen in his station are not accustomed to marrying their governesses.
It was now only one day until we would be wed, but my heart was anxious. Something had happened that I could not comprehend the night before. Mr. Rochester had been gone on business. I sought him on the road, with the wind roaring.
There! You cannot do without me, that is evident. Is there anything wrong?
No, but I thought you would never come. I could not bear to wait in the house for you, especially with this rain and wind.
Rain and wind indeed. Yes, you are tripping like a mermaid. Take my cloak and come inside. Sit with me, Jane. It is the last meal you will eat at Thornfield for a long time.
I cannot eat, I'm afraid.
Are you eager for the journey?
I hardly know. Everything seems unreal to me.
Except me. I am real enough.
You, sir, are the most phantom-like of all. You are a dream. It is late.
Do you wish to leave?
No.
Are you well, Jane? You're flushed.
I believe I am. How do you feel? Calm and happy?
Calm? No. But happy. To the heart's core. Give me your confidence, Jane. What troubles you?
Sir, I awoke last night to someone in my room. I thought it was Sophie, or Mrs. Fairfax. But it was not. It was not even Grace Poole.
It must have been one of them.
No, I had never seen this woman before. She was tall and large, with thick dark hair.
Did you see her face?
Not until she took my veil, the veil you gave me. I never saw a face like it. Discoloured, savage, bloodshot eyes.
What did she do?
She put the veil on her head and looked in my mirror for a few moments. Then she tore it in 2 pieces, see here, and trampled on them. Then she approached me and thrust her candle close to my face. I was so terrified I lost consciousness. When I awoke, I was alone.
Thank God. But if anything malignant did come near you last night, it was only the veil that was harmed. Oh, to think what might have happened.
Tell me who and what that woman was.
I will explain it to you, Janet. It was half dream and half reality. A woman did enter your room last night. That woman was Grace Poole. You call her strange yourself. What did she do to me? To Mason? In a state between walking and sleeping, you ascribed to her a goblin appearance, different than her own. Now, are you satisfied, Jane?
No, but it does seem the only explanation.
Share Adele's room tonight. I'd rather you not go to sleep alone after such an incident.
I shall be glad to.
Well, how is my Janet now?
I'm truly happy.
As am I.
That morning I wept in my farewell to Adele. She seemed an emblem of my past life. Sophie came to dress me that morning, and then off we were to the church. His hand was tight as iron around mine. I was hurried along by a stride I could hardly follow, by the most grimly resolute bridegroom one had ever seen. The service then began.
I require and charge you both, as you will answer at the day of judgment, that if either of you know any impediment, why you may not be lawfully joined together in matrimony, that you now confess it. Will you have this woman for your wedding wife?
The marriage cannot go on. I declare the existence of an impediment.
Proceed.
I cannot proceed without some investigation.
I can prove it.
And what is the nature of this impediment? Perhaps it can be explained?
Hardly. It simply consists of the fact that Mr. Rochester has a wife now living.
Who are you?
My name is Briggs. I'm a solicitor from London.
And you would thrust on me a wife?
I would remind you of her existence, sir, which the law recognizes, even if you don't. I can affirm and can prove that 15 years ago, Edward Fairfax Rochester was married to Bertha Antoinetta Mason.
That, if a genuine document, may prove I have been married, but it does not prove that the woman mentioned therein as my wife is still living.
She was living 3 months ago. I have a witness to the fact.
Produce him, then, or go to hell.
Mr. Mason, have the goodness to step forward.
What have you to say? The devil is in you if you cannot answer distinctly. What have you to say?
Sir, do not forget, you are in a sacred place. Are you aware, sir, whether or not this gentleman's wife is still living?
Courage, Mr. Mason.
She is now living at Thornfield Hall. I saw her there last April. I am her brother.
At Thornfield Hall? Impossible! I am an old resident in this neighborhood, and I have never heard of a Mrs. Rochester at Thornfield Hall.
No, by God! I took care that none ever should. Enough! Close your books, sir. There will be no wedding today. Bigamy is an ugly word. I meant, however, to be a bigamist, but fate has outmaneuvered me, or Providence has checked me. I am little better than a devil at this moment, and you tell me that I deserve, no doubt, the sternest judgment of God. What this lawyer and his client say is true. You, sir, say you have never heard of a Miss Rochester at Thornfield, but I dare say you have heard the gossip about the mysterious lunatic kept there under watch and war. That is my wife. Bertha Mason is mad. She came of a mad family, idiots and maniacs through 3 generations. Her mother was both a mad woman and a drunkard, as I found out after I had wed the daughter, for they were silent on this secret before. Weren't you, Mason? My old friend? Chin up. I'd as soon strike a woman as you. All of you. Come up and meet Miss Poole's patient, my wife. Come see what sort of being I was tricked into marrying, and judge whether or not I had a right to break the compact. This girl knew no more than you. She thought all was fair and legal. Come, all of you, follow. You know this place, Mason. She hasn't stabbed you here.
Master!
Good day, Miss Poole. How is your charge today?
We're tolerable, sir. Rather snappish, but not rageous. Sir, she sees you. You'd better go.
We had better leave her.
Go to the devil!
Oh, take care, sir. For God's sake, take care!
She has no knife now, I suppose.
One never knows, sir. She is so cunning. So look out!
Mr. Rochester flung me behind him. The lunatic sprung and grappled his throat viciously, and laid her teeth to his cheek. He could have settled her with a well-planted blow, but he would not strike her. He would only wrestle. At last he mastered her arms. Grace gave him a cord, and they bound her to a chair. Mr. Rochester turned to the spectators and looked at them with a smile both acrid and desolate.
This is my wife. Such is the only embrace I have ever known. Such are the endearments which are to solace me, and this is what I wish to have. This young girl who stands so grave and quiet at the mouth of hell. Look at the difference, and then judge me. And remember, with what judgment you judge, you shall be judged.
You, madam, are cleared from all blame. Your uncle will be glad to hear it, if indeed he is still living when Mr. Mason returns to Madeira.
My uncle?
Yes, Mr. Mason is a friend of his. He was there when your uncle received your letter intimating the contemplated union between yourself and Mr. Rochester. He is quite sick, madam, and he could not come himself to extradite you, but he implored Mr. Mason to do so in his stead.
I retreated into my own room, just myself, without obvious change. And yet, where was the Jane Eyre of yesterday? She, who had been an ardent, expectant woman, almost a bride, was a cold, solitary girl again. Her life was pale, her prospects desolate. My hopes were all dead. My love for him shuddered. Real affection, it seemed, he could not have for me. It had only been a fitful passion. I should fear to cross his path now. All I could do was pray over and over. Sometime in the afternoon, I lifted my head. I knew that I must leave at once, but that I must leave him entirely was unbearable. And yet, I must tear myself away. I undrew the bolt from my door and opened it. I stumbled over an obstacle, and dizzy, I fell, but an outstretched arm caught me. It was Mr. Rochester, who sat in a chair across from my threshold.
You come out at last. I have been waiting for you, long, and listening. Yet not one movement have I heard, nor one sob. 5 more minutes of that death-like hush, and I should have forced the lock like a burglar. So you shun me. You shut yourself up and grieve alone. I had rather you had come and upbraided me with vehemence. You are passionate. I expected a scene of some kind. I was prepared for a hot rain of tears. But I wanted them shed on my breast. But I err. You have not wept at all. Well, Jane, not a word of reproach? Nothing bitter? Nothing poignant? Jane, I never meant to wound you thus. Will you forgive me? You know I am a scoundrel, Jane.
Yes, sir.
Then tell me so. Roundly and sharply. Don't spare me.
I cannot. I am tired and sick. I need some water. I stumbled, and he caught me, took me into his arms, and placed me into a chair. He put wine to my lips and revived me.
How are you now, Jane?
Much better. I shall be well soon. He stooped towards me as if to kiss me, but I turned my face away.
You won't kiss the husband of Bertha Mason?
No, sir.
You have no intention of talking? I know you. You are thinking how to act. I am on my guard.
Sir, I do not wish to act against you.
Not in your sense of the word, but in mine you are scheming to destroy me. You intend to make yourself a complete stranger to me. You will say, this man nearly made me his mistress. I must be ice and rock to him.
All has changed, sir. I must change too. There is only one way. Adele must have a new governess, sir.
Oh, Adele will go to school. I have settled that already. Nor do I mean to torment you with hideous associations and recollections of this accursed place, of its imprisoned fiends.
Sir, you speak cruelly of that poor woman, with hate. How can you be so cruel? She cannot help being mad.
Jane, my little darling, you misjudge me. It is not because she is mad I hate her. If you were mad, do you think I would hate you?
I do indeed, sir.
Then you are mistaken, and you know nothing about me, and nothing about the sort of love which I am capable. Every atom of your flesh is as dear to me as my own. In pain and sickness, it would still be dear. Your mind is my treasure, and if it were broken, it would be my treasure still. Jane, I have prepared a place to retreat to, a secure sanctuary.
You must take Adele with you, sir. She will be a companion for you.
A companion? What do you mean?
Solitude is too dull for you.
Solitude? You are to share my solitude. Do you understand?
I will not.
Now for the hitch in Jane's character. Now for vexation, exasperation, and endless trouble. Jane, will you listen to reason?
Sit down. I'll talk to you as long as you like, and hear all you have to say, whether reasonable or unreasonable. He tried to embrace me and rest his head on my shoulder, but I resisted.
Oh, Jane. Jane. You don't love me, then? It was only my station and rank that you valued. Now that you think me disqualified to be your husband, you shrink back as if I were some toad or ape.
I do love you! More than ever. But this is the last time I can express it.
The last time?
I must leave you, sir.
Leave?
Yes! I must leave!
Jane. Jane, you shall yet be my wife. I am not married. You shall be Miss Rochester, both virtually and nominally. I shall keep to you only as long as we both live. Oh, Jane, why do you shake your head? Jane, you must be reasonable, or I shall become desperate.
Sir, your wife is still living. If I lived with you as you desire, I should then be your mistress. To say otherwise is false. I must go.
Please, please let me explain. Please let me explain. Please, do me that.
Yes, sir.
Jane, what do you know of my family?
Mrs. Fairfax mentioned an elder brother.
Yes. Well, my father was a grasping man. He could not bear the idea of dividing his estate and leaving me a fair portion. He resolved that all of it should go to my brother. Yet as little could he endure that a son of his should be a poor man. I must be provided for. by a wealthy marriage. They sent me to Jamaica, and unknown to me arranged my marriage to Bertha Mason. She was beautiful then. I seldom saw her alone, and had very little conversation with her at all. She flattered me and charmed me. I was dazzled. Being ignorant, young, raw, and inexperienced, I thought I loved her. A marriage was achieved almost before I knew where I was. Jane, I did not even know her. Then she revealed herself. Her mother was shut up in an asylum. Her younger brother was a complete fool. My father and brother knew all this, but they thought only of the £30,000 and joined in the plot against me. She was drunken, perverse. I found her nature wholly alien to mine. I could not pass a single evening with her in comfort. I lived with her for 4 years. Her character ripened, her vices sprang up. Only cruelty would check them. And I'd not use cruelty. Have you ever seen an asylum, Jane?
No, sir.
The inmates are brutalized, treated like animals. I spared her that, but I never loved her. I did not even know her. That is my marriage. I could not rid myself of it by any legal means.
I earnestly pity you, sir.
Jane, I have, for the first time, found what I can truly love. I have found you. You are my sympathy, my better self, my good angel. I am bound to you with a strong attachment. I was wrong to deceive you. I feared a stubbornness that exists in your character. I wanted to have you safe before hazarding confidences. This was cowardly. I should have appealed to your noble, kind heart and shown you my bent to love you faithfully and well. I should have asked you to accept my pledge of fidelity and to give me yours. Jane, give it to me now. Why are you silent, Jane? Jane, you understand what I want from you. Just this promise to be mine.
I will not be yours.
Jane, do you mean to go one way in the world and leave me to go another?
I do.
Do you mean it now?
I do.
And now?
I do.
Oh, Jane, this is bitter. This is wicked.
It would be wicked to obey you. I will not abandon myself, nor will I abandon God. Not even for you.
But think of my life when you are gone. All happiness will be torn away with you. What shall I do, Jane? Where turn for a companion and for hope?
Do as I do. Look to God and yourself. Believe in heaven. Hope to meet again there.
When you condemn me to live wretched and die accursed?
I no more assign this fate to you than myself. We were born to strive and endure. You will forget me before I forget you.
You make me a liar by such language. I will never It is better to drive a fellow creature to despair than to transgress a mere human law. No man being injured by the breach, who would care?
I would!
Never at once was something so frail and yet so indomitable. It is your soul, your heart that I want. If you would only come of your own free will.
God help me. I could not delay. I fled Thornfield into the rain. Such was the manner in which I arrived and imposed upon St. John's hospitality. It had now been many months, and I was working at his school. St. John! Has something happened?
No. How easily alarmed you are.
Then why are you here?
Rather an inhospitable question to put to a visitor. I need to speak with you. I've heard a story recently, and I'm impatient to hear the rest.
A story?
Of a young woman who was orphaned and taken to Lowood after 10 years with an aunt. The same place you lived. It seems after many years as a pupil, she became a teacher there, like you. And then left to become a governess for the ward of a certain Mr. Rochester.
Mr. Rivers!
I can guess your feelings, but restrain them for a moment and hear me to the end. Of Mr. Rochester, I know nothing. Only that he professed to offer honorable marriage to this young girl. And at the altar, she discovered that he had a wife alive, though a lunatic. What his subsequent conduct was, I do not know. But when the governess was sought out, she was gone. No one could tell when, where, or how. She had left in the night and disappeared. No information could be found respecting her. Yet she must be found. Advertisements have been put in all the papers, and a Mr. Briggs has written me on the subject.
St. John, just tell me this. Since you know so much, surely you can tell me how and where is Mr. Rochester? Is he well?
I do not know. The letter never mentions him, but to narrate his fraudulent attempt to wed the governess, you should rather ask of the governess.
Did no one go to Thornfield Hall, then? No one saw him?
I suppose not. Mr. Briggs mentioned that the reply from Thornfield came from an Alice Fairfax, not a Rochester. He must have been a bad man.
You do not know him?
No, I do not. Since you will not ask the governess's name, I will tell it. Mr. Briggs wrote to me of a Jane Eyre. You own the name, and renounce the alias?
Yes. Where is Mr. Briggs? Perhaps he knows more of Mr. Rochester than you.
Briggs is in London. I should doubt his knowing anything at all about Mr. Rochester. It is you he is interested in.
Why? What did he want?
To tell you that your uncle in Madeira is dead, and that he has left you all of his property. You are rich.
Rich?
Yes, you, rich. Quite an heiress. You must prove your identity, of course, but then you can enter into immediate possession. Will you ask how much you are worth?
How much?
£20,000.
20,000?
Well, if you had committed a murder and I'd found you out, you could scarcely look more aghast.
It's such a large sum. Don't you think there's a mistake?
No mistake. Well, I shall leave you to your discovery.
Wait. Why did Mr. Briggs write to you of this?
Oh, I am a clergyman. We are often appealed to about odd matters.
No, that does not satisfy me. I must know.
Another time.
No, tonight. You will not go till you have told me.
I'd rather Diana or Mary informed you.
You must tell me now. My curiosity shall not wait to be satisfied.
I am a hard man, difficult to persuade.
And I am a hard woman, impossible to put off.
Well then, I yield. Your name is Jane Eyre?
Of course. We've settled that.
You are not, then, aware that I am your namesake. I was christened St. John Eyre Rivers. My mother's name was Eyre. She had 2 brothers. Mr. Briggs wrote us some time ago to inform us of our uncle's death.
He left you nothing?
A consequence of a quarrel never forgotten. Now may I go?
Your mother was my father's sister?
Yes.
My aunt, then? You 3, then, are my cousins?
Yes.
Oh, I am so glad.
You were serious when I told you you had £20,000. And now you're excited over nothing.
It may be nothing to you, but I had nobody. Now I have 3 relations. I am glad. You must write Diana and Mary to come home. With £5,000 they can do very well.
What do you mean?
£20,000 Divide it equally between the four of us, our uncles, nieces, and nephew. It will give 5,000 to each.
He left you the full sum, Jane.
I have intimated my view of the case. I am incapable of taking any other. I am not selfish or unjust. It would please me and benefit me to have 5,000 pounds. It would torment and oppress me to have 20,000, which are not mine in justice, even if they are by law. I abandon to you what is superfluous to me.
You think so now because you do not understand what it is to possess and enjoy wealth. You cannot understand the importance 20,000 pounds would give you, the prospects it would open up to you,
and you cannot imagine the craving I have for fraternal and sisterly love. I never had a home, or brothers or sisters. I must have them now, and I will not be wealthy while my brother and sisters are penniless.
Jane, I will be your brother, and my sisters will be your sisters. But you may not be alone otherwise. You may marry.
Nonsense. I never shall. No one would take me for love, and I will not be taken merely for money. I do not want a stranger. I want my kindred. You will be my brother, then.
I think I can. I've always loved my own sisters, and my affection for them is grounded on respect for their worth and admiration for their talents. You, too, have principle and mind. Your tastes and habits resemble theirs, and your presence agreeable. I feel I can easily and naturally make room in my heart for you as my third and youngest sister.
Thank you. I am content. St. John did not keep his promise. He was cold toward me when we returned to Moor House. A substitute had been found and taken up my post at the school. I wondered if it was in part because the woman he loved but refused to marry due to some moral code was now to marry another. He became inclined to teach me languages. I had not forgotten Mr. Rochester, but every inquiry was met with silence. St. John found me crying one day. He urged me to walk with him.
Jane, I go in 6 weeks to India as a missionary.
God will protect you.
Jane, I want you to come with me.
What?
God and nature intended you for a missionary's wife. 'Tis not personal, but mental endowments they have given you. You are formed for labor, not love. A missionary's wife you shall be. I claim you, not for my pleasure, but for God's service.
I am not fit for it.
Who is? We are all but dust. God has chosen us as instruments for his holy task. Lean on the rock of ages. It will bear the weight of your human weakness.
I do not understand missionary life.
I will help you. Jane, your time at the school showed me your strength and sacrifice. In learning languages with me, I have found you docile, diligent, faithful, constant, courageous, gentle. You will be invaluable to me in serving these people.
I can understand you. And I will go, if I may go free.
Free?
Up till now you have been my adopted brother, and I your sister. Let us continue as such. You and I had better not marry.
No. If you were my real sister, it would be different. I would take you and seek no wife. Our union must be consecrated and sealed by marriage, or it cannot exist. Practical obstacles oppose any other plan.
We do not love each other as a man and wife should. That alone infers that we ought not to marry. Let us continue as brother and sister.
We cannot. The work we undertake in India can best be done if we marry. I do not want a sister who may be taken from me any day. I want a wife.
Then seek one elsewhere, one fitted to you. I will give you my energies, but not myself.
You cannot. Do you think God would be satisfied with this half-sacrifice? I will not accept on his behalf a divided allegiance. It must be entire.
I will give my heart to God. You do not want it. I freely consent to go with you as your fellow missionary, but not as your wife. I cannot marry you and become a part of you.
A part of me you must become, otherwise the whole bargain is void. How can I, a man not yet 30, bring a girl of 19 with me to India unless we are married? We must be married. There is no other way. Undoubtedly enough of love would follow marriage to make the union right even in your eyes.
Enough of love? I scorn your idea of love, and you when you offer it. My dear cousin, abandon your scheme of marriage.
I cannot.
He was even colder toward me after that.
Jane, you are agitated and pale. Is something the matter? That brother of ours cherishes peculiar views of some sort respecting you, I'm sure. He has long distinguished you by a notice and interest he never showed to anyone else. To what end, Jane?
Does he love you, Jane?
No, not even as a sister anymore.
Then why does he watch you so? And keep you so continually at his side? We had both concluded that he wished you to marry him.
That he does. He has asked me.
Oh, it is just what we hoped and thought. You will marry him, Jane, won't you?
And then he will stay in England.
Far from that. He wishes me to be his fellow labourer in his travels. That is his sole purpose.
He wishes you to go with him.
Madness! You would not live 3 months there. You never shall go. You have not consented, have you?
I have refused him.
And displeased him?
Deeply. He will never forgive me, I fear. St. John and I had once been friends, if not brothers. Now he withheld friendship. I sought him out once more before he left for Cambridge. St. John, I am unhappy because you are still angry with me. Let us be friends.
I hope we are friends.
But not as we were. You know that.
I wish you no ill.
I know you do not, but I am your kinswoman.
I am far from treating you as a stranger.
Must we part in this way, St. John? And when you go to India, will you leave me the same way?
When I go? Jane, will you not go with me to India?
You said I could not unless I married you.
And you will not marry me? You adhere to that resolution?
No, I will not.
Why this refusal?
Formerly, because you did not love me, nor I you. Now, because you almost hate me. If I were to marry you, you would kill me. You are killing me now.
I would kill? I am killing you? Well, those words are violent, unfeminine, and untrue.
You misunderstand my words. I do not wish to grieve you.
You will not go to India at all, I presume.
I will go as your curate if you like, but never your wife.
I have proven to you the absurdity of the idea. A single woman of your age could not accompany abroad a single man of mine. I should have thought you'd never speak of such an idea again.
You are verging on nonsense. You pretend to be shocked by what I have said, but you are not. You are not so dull or conceited as to misunderstand me.
A female curate would never suit me. If you are sincere in your offer, I will speak to a married missionary whose wife may need assistance. Thus, you may be spared the dishonor of breaking your promise and deserting the band you engaged to join.
There is no dishonor, no breach of promise, no desertion in the case. I never made a promise to you, and I am not under the slightest obligation to go to India, especially with strangers. I would have gone with you because I admire and, as a sister, love you. But I won't go with strangers. I won't live long there, of that I am sure. And God did not give me my life to throw away. Moreover, I cannot leave England until I know whether I would be of better use here.
I know where your heart turns, and to what it clings. The interest you cherish is lawless and unconsecrated. Long since you ought to have crushed it. You think of Mr. Rochester.
I must find out what has become of him. That is all.
It remains for me then to remember you in my prayers, and to entreat God for you, that you may not become a castaway. His will be done.
St. John, if I were convinced it was God's will I should marry you, I could vow to marry you here and now.
Then ask, and you shall receive.
He surrounded me with his arm, almost as if he loved me. But I knew what it was to be loved. With him, it was only duty. I prayed. I entreated of heaven. Suddenly, an inexpressible feeling thrilled me. Oh God, what is it?
Jane, what is it? What do you see?
I am coming! Wait for me! Where are you? I broke from St. John and ran to my chamber. I fell to my knees and prayed, and then I departed with resolve. But when I reached my former home, I looked with joy toward a stately house, and instead saw a blackened ruin. There was a silence of death around it, but for a familiar face, covered in tears. Jane! Mrs. Fairfax!
I come to look at it sometimes, after everything.
What happened?
It was his wife. The fire broke out in the dead of night. She set your bed on fire. Thank God you were not there.
What of Mr. Rochester?
He got everyone out. He tried to go get his wife, but she was on the roof. She jumped.
She's dead?
Quite dead.
Good God.
Mr. Rochester, the poor man may be better off dead. He's stone blind, dear. He wouldn't leave the house till everyone else was out before him. When his wife had jumped, there was a great crash. A beam had fallen on him. He's alive, but blind and a cripple.
Where is he? She brought me with her to a manor house, a moderately sized older building. Mr. Rochester had spoken of it before. When I arrived, John and Mary ushered me in quietly. They were the only others who remained with him. I took Mary's place, bringing in a tray of candles and water.
What's the matter, Pilot?
Down, Pilot.
This is you, Mary, is it not?
Mary is in the kitchen.
Who is this? Answer me. Speak again.
Will you have a little more water, sir? I spilled half of what was in the glass.
Who is it? What is it? Who speaks?
Pilot knows me, and John and Mary know I am here. I came only this evening.
Great God! What delusion has come over me? What sweet madness has seized me?
No delusion. No madness.
Let me touch you. Her very fingers, her small, slight fingers. Is it Jane? This is her shape.
And this is her voice. She is all here. Her heart, too. I am so glad to be near you again.
Such dreams I have had at night, when I clasped her to my heart, as I do now, and kissed her as thus, and felt that she loved me, and trusted she would not leave me.
Which I never will from this day.
Never. But I always awoke and found it an empty mockery. Gentle, soft dream, you will fly too.
I am very real.
Is it really you? You are come back to me, then?
I am.
You do not lie dead in some ditch, or as a pining outcast among strangers?
No, sir. I am an independent woman now.
An independent woman?
My uncle in Madeira died, and he left me £5,000.
Ah, this is practical. This is real. I should never have dreamt that. Why, Janet, you are a rich woman.
Quite rich, sir. And if you won't let me live with you, I can build a house of my own, and you can come sit in my parlour when you want company.
But you are rich, Jane. You have now, no doubt, friends who will look after you, and not suffer you to devote yourself to a blind man and cripple.
I am independent, sir. I am my own mistress.
And you will stay with me?
Certainly, unless you object. I will be your neighbour, your nurse, your housekeeper. If I find you lonely, I will be your companion. You will not be alone, so long as I live. His silence discouraged me. I had thought he wished and would ask me again to be his wife, but no hint to that effect escaping him, I suddenly realized I may have been wrong. I began to gently withdraw myself from his arms, but he eagerly snatched me closer.
No, Jane, you must not go. I have touched you and heard you and felt the comfort of your presence. I cannot give up these joys.
I will stay with you. I have said so.
Yes, but you understand one thing by staying, and I understand another. You intend to wait on me as a kind little nurse, and that should suffice for me, no doubt. I suppose I should now entertain only friendly feelings for you. Do you think so?
Think what you like, sir. I am content to be only your nurse, if you think it better.
But you cannot always be my nurse, Janet. You are young. You must marry one day.
I don't care about being married.
You should care, Janet. If I were what I once was, I would try to make you care.
It is time someone undertook to rehumanize you. Your hair is unkempt.
And this stump?
It is a pity to see it, and a pity to see your eyes, and the scar on your forehead. The worst of it is, one is in danger of loving you too well for all of this.
I thought you would be revolted, Jane.
Did you? Now, let me make up a better fire. Can you tell when there is a good one?
With the right eye, I see a glow.
And the candles?
Very dimly. Each is a luminous cloud.
Can you see me?
No, my fairy, but I am thankful to hear and feel you. You are altogether a human being, Jane.
I conscientiously believe so. Have you a pocket comb about you?
What for, Jane?
To comb out this shaggy black mane of yours. Come, give it to me.
Am I hideous, Jane?
Very, sir. You always were, you know.
The wickedness has not been taken out of you, wherever you've been.
I have been with good people. Far better than you.
Who the deuce have you been with?
You shall not get it out of me tonight. Leaving my tale half told should give you some security that I will still be here in the morning.
You mocking changeling.
I am tired, sir. I have been traveling these last 3 days. Good night.
Jane, were there only ladies where you have been?
The next morning, I led him out into fields of flowers. I described everything to him. I happily sat upon his knee, and he held me close to him as I related my story of the last year.
This St. John, then, is your cousin?
Yes.
You have spoken of him often. Did you like him?
He was a good man. I could not help liking him.
A respectable man of 50?
He was 29. Untiringly active. He likes to perform great and exalted deeds.
But his mind, that is probably rather soft. He means well, but you shrug to hear him talk.
He talks little, sir, but what he does say is ever to the point. His brain is first-rate and vigorous.
He is able, then, and educated.
Oh, yes.
His manners, I think you said, are not to your taste.
I never mentioned his manners, but they are polished, calm, and gentlemanlike.
What does he look like? I forget. A sort of raw curate, half strangled by his white neckcloth.
St. John dresses well. He is a handsome man. Tall, fair, with blue eyes and a Grecian profile.
Damn him. Did you like him, Jane?
Yes, I liked him. But you asked me that before.
Perhaps you would rather not sit near me, Miss Eyre.
Why not, sir?
The contrast is in your pictures. A graceful Apollo compared to a Vulcan. He wished to marry you, did he not?
He did, yes. He asked me to.
You are trying to vex me.
I beg your pardon. It is the literal truth. He asked me more than once, and was as stiff about urging his point as you ever could be.
Miss Eyre, I repeat, you can leave. Why have you not?
Because I am comfortable here.
No, Jane, you are not comfortable here, because your heart is not with me. It is with this cousin, this St. John. Go and marry him.
Then shake me off. I'll not leave of my own accord. He does not love me, nor I him. He wanted to marry me only because he thought I would make a good missionary's wife. He is good, but severe and cold. I am not happy at his side as I am with you.
Truly, Jane?
Absolutely. Oh, you need not be jealous. I wanted to tease you a little to make you less sad. I thought anger would be better than grief. I love you, sir, very much. I never stopped and never will.
Jane, I am a ruin. You are young. What right do I have to you?
You are no ruin. These are only wounds. Your spirit remains strong and vigorous.
You wish to be friends, Jane?
Of course.
But Jane, I want a wife.
Do you?
Yes. Is it news to you?
Of course.
Is it unwelcome news?
That depends on your choice.
Which you shall make for me, Jane. I will abide by your decision.
Choose then, sir. Her who loves you best.
I will at least choose her I love best. Jane, will you marry me?
Yes.
Poor blind man, whom you will have to lead about by the hand.
Yes, sir.
A crippled man, who you will have to wait on.
Yes, sir.
Truly, Jane.
Most truly.
Oh, my darling. God bless you and reward you.
Edward, if ever I did a good deed in my life, I am rewarded now. To be your wife is, for me, to be as happy as I can be on earth.
Because you delight in sacrifice.
Sacrifice? What do I sacrifice? To be privileged to put my arms round what I value and my lips to what I love? If that is sacrifice, then I certainly delight in it.
Until now, I have hated to be helped, but it will be a joy with you. Jane, you must think me an irreligious dog, but I am grateful to God. I did you wrong. I would have sullied an innocent flower. God snatched it from me, and divine justice pursued its course. I have been humbled forever. Of late, I've begun to see and experience God. I began to seek repentance and to pray. Last Monday night, grief overtook me. Since I had been unable to find you, I thought you dead. I prayed to God in anguish, and your name was all I could think to say.
Did you speak it out loud?
I did. If anyone had heard me, he would have thought me mad. I called with such frantic energy.
And this was last Monday evening, just after sunset?
Yes, but what follows is the strangest of it. I cannot tell where the voice came from, but I know whose it was. It called out.
I am coming. Wait for me.
Yes, it was you, wasn't it?
It was.
I thank God. I thank God.
Friend, I married him. I have now been married 10 years. I know what it is to live entirely for and with what I love best in this world. No woman was ever nearer to her mate than I am. I know no weariness of Edward's society, and he knows none of mine. To be together is for us to be at once as free as in solitude, and as happy as in company. Edward continued blind the first 2 years of our marriage, but the sight in one eye gradually returned to him, and when his firstborn was put into his arms, he could see that the boy had inherited his eyes as they once were, large, brilliant, and black. My Edward and I, then, are happy, as are those we love.
Thank you.